So I was in your shoes once before, and so excited to see some faces and hopefully get to see you guys in the fall. So I do have a set of questions for all of my students. So I do have four kind of three current students joining me. One that was a past student but is still working on our campus, and she'll explain how that's working. And I'll let them introduce themselves to you. I do have 10-minute advising sessions available for you guys if you have more specific questions or anything like that. And I'm going to put that link in our chat box. If at any point you have a question or anything like that, you can raise your hand. But if you don't feel like talking, that is totally fine as well. You will just type your question into the chat box. So without further ado, I will have all my current students turn their cameras on, and you guys can leave your mics on. It's been working okay to have them on, and then you don't have to keep muting and unmuting yourself. And have you guys introduce yourselves to our guests.
Okay. I guess I'll go first.
Sure.
My name's Shayla. I am in UT for elementary ed. I'm a current second-year student. I live in Lloydminster, and all of my classes this semester have been online.
Perfect. Rebecca, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm Rebecca. I'm also doing the university transfer for elementary education. I have lived in Lloydminster and I'm going to Lakeland, obviously. And then I'm planning on transferring to the University of Alberta to do a combined degree.
Seth, can you turn your camera on? There you go. Or speak. Seth, do you want to go next? We might be having some technical difficulties. Claudia, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I can go. I'm Claudia. I'm a third-year student, and I was part of university transfer, but now I'm at the U of A doing Aboriginal Teachers Education Program, but I'm also on Lakeland's campus, so it's kind of difficult explaining that to people who ask where I go to school. So I'm kind of everywhere. And this is Molly. She's 5 weeks old, and she's so excited to be here today. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Claudia. Seth, do you want to try again, and we'll see if we can hear you? No. We can see your lips moving, but audio is not working. The joys of technology, especially so early in the morning. Okay, so we'll let Seth do some troubleshooting, and we'll just move on. So Seth is a first-year student that is doing the science route. He did attend another university or college. I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head, so I'll let him say that later. But we're going to start off with, why did you choose Lakeland? So anyone can kind of speak. If you want to kind of go in an order again, that's okay. But what made you choose Lakeland?
Shayla, you want to go? I'll go first again. I chose Lakeland because I grew up in a really small community, and I knew coming out of high school that I was not ready to just jump right into like Saskatoon or Edmonton or Calgary. I knew that was not what I wanted to do. I chose Lakeland because all the class sizes are a lot smaller, and it really allowed me to get to know my professors a lot easier and meet friends a lot easier, and it wasn't as scary as transition as I thought it was going to be.
I guess I'll go next. I chose Lakeland because I've lived in Lloydminster my entire life, and so I, like Shayla, did not want to jump right into Alberta or Saskatoon or a big city. And I mean, I graduated last year, finishing off with COVID. So I decided to just stick close and just a bit smaller, so then it was a bit easier to transition into college and university life.
So out of high school, my plan actually was to go to the U of A or to the U of S, but my dad kept talking about Lakeland because he graduated from the Vermilion campus. And finally, I was just like, okay, I'll go check it out. And then I went to the open house, and Kelsey actually introduced the ATEP program. And being a Métis person myself, I really liked the idea of getting to do a degree in my own background and culture. So yeah, I stayed with Lakeland, and now I love it.
Okay, so what about, how is college a little bit different from high school? Who wants to attack that one first?
I guess I can. I just graduated last year. So, I mean, the homework level, you spend way more time by yourself doing your homework. During lectures, you get taught all the material you need to know, and then it's up to you to get your assignments done. There's no kind of guidance by teachers telling you, hey, you need to get this in. It's solely on yourself to remember those things. And yeah, there's just more homework. You spend more time doing homework out of class, not in class. You don't really get any time in class to do any type of homework.
Anyone want to add on to that?
Yeah, when I graduated high school, I was always told by my teachers that like in high school, it's like 80% on the teachers and 20% on you. And then when you shift into like college and university, it's like total reverse. It's like 20% on them and 80% on you. So just kind of reiterating what Rebecca said, that it's a big change on like what's done, what you have to do on your own. It's not like, hey, make sure you have this in time. It's if you miss a deadline, you miss a deadline. Like they're not going to be there right by your side telling you that, oh, you missed this, here's an extra day kind of thing.
Agree, Claudia, or do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, that like I do agree, especially in like from the U of A now, there's so much, like it gets ridiculous sometimes. But also at Lakeland, I think there was lots of opportunities to be in different groups. So there were lots of people to like help with homework or like things that you're interested in to kind of take the load off a little bit. But yeah, the homework is really big.
Seth, do you want to try speak?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Good.
Do you want to do a quick little
what question are you at?
Yourself? You haven't missed too much. Do you want to do a quick intro for yourself?
For sure. Yeah, my name is Seth Adams, and I am doing the University Transfer Program in General Sciences here at Lloydminster, and I work and take a couple classes on top of that. So just kind of doing two things.
And you did attend another institution, correct?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. It was
Briarcrest
College. So then I moved over here for this year.
And what made you choose Lakeland?
I think a huge factor for me choosing Lakeland was the affordability of it, because my parents live here and I'm living at their house now. So that's not the most exciting option, but it is an affordable option. So that's what kind of made me choose Lakeland this year. And also being able to just kind of take a step back, figure out where am I going? What am I doing? What am I going to do with my life? And there's that space to do that here. So, yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, essentially, you're not the only one. I think a good portion of our students come from the Lloydminster area. I mean, Rebecca, Claudia are great examples, and Shayla's not too far away. So essentially, that's a main pull, and so that's I mean, great. And a lot of times, like Claudia, You know, you get here and you realize, oh, Lakeland actually isn't too bad. And we had, I think it was my afternoon panel session yesterday. I had a student that was adamant that they were leaving after year one, and she came back and was my panelist for year two. So, you know, it happens for sure. So we were just on the question of how is college different from high school. So we essentially just talked about, you know, a lot more onus is on students. Do you have anything else to add, Seth?
No, I think that's, again, I think I can kind of expand on that in saying that, like, with classes, if you don't show up to classes, the profs will sometimes try and reach out to you. I've never been in a situation like that yet, but a lot of the weight is put on you to show up to class. And if you don't, well, they got a lot of students to worry about and a lot of assignments to mark. And I guess that's up to you. So, yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. So what are some clubs and activities you've participated in? Definitely, it's a little bit tougher for Seth and Rebecca because there isn't definitely as many events happening. Anyone done the live SA events that have been happening? So like they've done a bingo or trivia nights?
No, I haven't.
That's okay. Can Shayla and Claudia talk about what they've maybe seen in the past?
I know that SA, especially last year as a first year student, they're very encouraging to get you to join different activities. So they always have different stuff going on in the hallway. They always have like, this isn't really an activity, but they have like a breakfast table where it was like bagels and pancakes, and that was really cool. And they always had like different things to hand out, and they always had different events going on. I personally didn't get to many events last year, just the way my class schedule was, but I know a lot of my other friends did, and they always said they were a lot of fun.
Good job, Claudia. She was actually the
yeah, I was actually on the SA last year. Lots of stuff we did was like kind of parties at nighttime before there were restrictions on how many people we could have, or we would do bingo in the afternoon or have food out for students. And then this year, I'm one of the co-creators of the student pantry at the college. So we work on dealing with food insecurity, but in like an anonymous way, so students can still reach out. And if anyone wants to talk about that, we're always looking for help. So yeah.
Awesome. And then this is actually my first session that I don't have any sports students, but I do have, we do have sports on campus. We have the volleyball, basketball, and soccer and futsal. So those are events that you can kind of attend for free as a Lakeland student on the weekends and stuff. So Fridays and Saturdays. So that's always kind of a big pull as well, or has been in the past. So none of you can speak on residence life, right? Or Shayla, did you live in your first year? No.
No.
Okay. So if you do have questions about residence or anything like that, feel free to ask the question in the chat box, but we won't talk too much about it just because we don't have any personal experiences. I did live in dorms, but it was many years ago, so I think things have changed just a little bit since then. But if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask. So we'll move on to the next question. What's your biggest piece of advice you'd give first-time college or university students?
I think speaking from like personal experience was that like when I came in, I didn't realize that like you don't have to take 5 classes. Like that's not a suitable fit for some people. And so when I came in, I took 5 classes right away, and it is a very big adjustment. So my advice to anyone that's just starting off, that if you're not sure or you're overwhelmed, don't be afraid to like go talk to Kelsey. Like I went to Kelsey's office quite a bit my first year just to be like, okay, what do I do? What are my options? What can I drop? What can I pick up? What fits in my degree? What doesn't? Just like things like that. Just be able to go ask for help and realize that like you're not Superwoman or Superman. You can't. Sometimes you just can't do it all.
I guess my biggest piece of advice that I give people is to make sure that you're staying on top of your classes. Especially in kind of first year, you'll find out pretty quick that things go quickly, and so if you don't stay on top of your homework and your assignments, you start falling behind pretty fast.
Claudia, what about you?
I think it's like if you have a question, ask somebody, because even if it's a peer or your teacher, somebody's going to have the same question or somebody's going to know the answer. And that's also how you can build like study groups and friend groups. So have like a steady little base of people who you can talk to if you need help. And also Kelsey's really great at helping. I also harassed her a lot in my first 2 years. Yeah.
Seth?
My advice would be take a deep breath and relax. It's gonna be okay, because I think we have this like kind of image that we're gonna get to college and it's gonna be like, oh, it's all on me. And while there is that kind of responsibility shift to some extent, there is also a lot of support that comes along with that. So you reaching out weekly with updates and things like that, or offering for sessions to talk about classes and where are you going to go, what are you going to do. There's a lot of people who are there to support you. And then the profs, they're great. I mean, I don't recommend this, but I didn't know what I was doing, and I missed the first day of my physics class. And my prof reached out to me, and we went over the entire assignment again. So, I mean, if that speaks to what the profs are like, then I think that's helpful in us just like taking a step back and realizing, hey, it's okay. Just relax. It's gonna be good.
Awesome. So going back to the weeks, does anyone know how many weeks our year is?
13.
13. Good. So yeah, so we are at 13 weeks. So it is a quick, and I think someone in one of my other ones, I think we're on week 8. So it already feels like it's already, I can't believe it's almost the end of October, right? Like I feel like we just started a couple weeks ago. So it definitely does fly fast, and you just don't really realize until you're kind of in the middle of that school year kind of thing. So Shayla, Claudia, all of them kind of talked about myself. So I do meet with you guys one-on-one to pick your classes, make sure you're doing that. And if at any point you're unsure, you have questions, you're maybe not loving a class, anything like that, you can come speak to me. And we can kind of figure out a plan B or another option, or maybe we're changing your route completely, all those kinds of things. So that's a great kind of service. I can be your first point of contact. And then, yeah, exactly like Seth said, our profs are really friendly and approachable and essentially want you to be successful. So if you ever are having issues or have a question or anything like that, you can definitely reach out to them. So we'll move on to the the next question. So what were you maybe not prepared for and wish you had known before attending? So it kind of links into the other one, but.
I think what I wished I would have known before starting was, one, I had to move from like where I am to Lloyd. So I think I grew up near Lloyd, so it wasn't a huge transition. But for anyone that is moving from like a farther location, I would say like come get acquainted with the city, like know where to go. And also I was not expecting like the additional cost of things. That's a realistic expense. So like I was not expecting, like I knew textbooks were expensive, but like I spent like $260 on a textbook, and I was like, wow, that's for one class. Times that by 5, it adds up really quick. Just like the expensive things that I didn't realize, like a TV bill or like gas to and from, just additional stuff that you might take granted of when you live at home.
Perfect. Anyone have other?
I wasn't really prepared for the busyness that comes with it all. Just with homework and assignments, I used to, after school from grade 12, I used to go and volunteer a whole bunch, and I definitely still do, but it impacts when I can study and the times that I do all of that, for sure.
Claudia?
yeah, I had to learn a lot about time management because in high school I would just go home and be like, oh, I'll do this later, or I'll do it before class. But doing that in my first year was a lot of all-nighters trying to finish essays for English or like projects for psychology in one day. Yeah, so have time management and like know how to organize yourself is definitely for sure.
Seth, anything to add?
I think make sure that you are on top of the scholarships that come out and bursaries and things like that, because I missed my opportunity to jump on those, and that's just free money with a little bit of work. So I definitely recommend that you guys get on top of that. Even if you're not 100% sure you're going to Lakeland, it doesn't hurt to try and apply for some of those. So yeah.
So what Seth would be talking about would be our entrance scholarships. So you do need to apply for those by May 1st, if I remember. So you'd have to be applied and have everything kind of in by then. But we do offer scholarships and bursaries throughout the school year. So there's ones that are out right now. So we kind of have like a first semester one. There's ones that come out in January, and then there's end of year ones as well. So there are multiple opportunities if you do end up missing the entrance scholarships to do that as well. So they also talked about expenses and then time management as well. So I'm testing you guys again. Does anyone know who to contact if you are having issues with expenses, or who can maybe help you out? Anyone know the general department that you should reach out to?
Student services.
Not quite. I mean, they definitely can, because you could chat with financial aid and stuff for sure. They're upstairs. The commons, yeah. So within the commons, we do have a wellness advisor, so she can actually help with budgeting and doing all those kinds of things. And then as well in the commons for time management, how to study, how to read textbooks and all that kind of stuff, we have Karen, who can help with all of those kinds of resources as well. And just going back to Shayla, I mean, you can definitely get lost in Lloyd a little bit confused, but how about the college? Do you think you can get lost really ultimately in the college? No? It's essentially one building, which is kind of a bonus. I mean, you can definitely get turned around and maybe a little confused as to where to go. But ultimately, there's only one building. So if you've left the building, you've now left Lakeland College, and you're not going to find your classroom. Have you ever failed a class? Again, a little harder for my first years, or maybe a test, or maybe even just not done as well on an assignment or a midterm as you would have expected or hoped.
I definitely did.
Yeah.
Sorry, I definitely did that in my first year.
So how did we overcome it? Like, what did we kind of do to maybe change things, or?
So I was in chemistry for my first semester, and that was definitely difficult. And I did not as well as I'd hoped on my very first midterm. And that was kind of like a very big shot to the ego, I guess, because I, coming out of high school, had really good marks. And I think that's another thing you also have to learn is like you might be getting 90s or 100s or 80s, high 80s in high school. And then when you come into college, you might be getting like 60s and 70s. And that's just reality. Like it's just a lot different. But to overcome that, I really utilized my textbook and utilized my professor. Like I reached out a lot more when I had questions. I was more vocal during class because I wasn't, you kind of just have to get over that hurdle of being shy and awkward because everyone in your first year is kind of shy and awkward when you're trying to ask questions. So I definitely recommend not doing that and being vocal if you have questions.
Perfect. Anyone have anything to add to that, or?
I guess like just adding on to the high school, I also had pretty good marks in high school, and so coming to college and taking some of these tests and exams, I'm like, okay, I didn't study quite as hard as I should have for that one, or I guess I just didn't understand. And I mean, the reality is you just gotta keep moving, you gotta push yourself forward and just be like, okay, I didn't do too well on that, but there's another one, I can make up for it. So
Yeah, and even though the weeks do go by really fast and stuff like that, for sure, there are generally most courses have two midterms, right? So even though the first midterm maybe didn't go as well as you'd hoped, the second one you can kind of redeem yourself, or like maybe you're a better essay writer or research paper writer, and so that can help with that as well. Has anyone ever utilized the peer tutor program? Do you want to explain a little bit more about it, Claudia?
Yeah, I was a peer tutor, and I did have one kind of for stats because that was my hardest class. And it's honestly a really cool program where they just kind of show up, they don't judge you, you just work through problems. It's a really good environment. I would also do take advantage of your tutorials. They may seem like so boring because it's extra math or whatever, but if you have Mark Kreiderman for stats, he's like the nicest person you'll ever meet, and he loves tutorials and he just wants to help. So go to those, work with people. Yeah, they'll help you
out. So we do tutorials for our calculus. Mark has now added them for his statistics and math class. So those are new this year. English has a tutorial, and so does chemistry. So we do have lots of opportunities to attend those kind of tutorials, and they are optional, but like Claudia said, they're really good kind of extra help and stuff like that. So we definitely have some restrictions, and it's definitely been a bummer, but can you share a story of, so this is a new question for you guys, I'm putting you on the spot. Can you share a story or silver lining or advantage that has maybe come out of this kind of year?
I think of an advantage that I've had in a couple of my classes. Like if you have Tina, she pre-records all of her lectures and all of her slides, which I really like. I didn't think I was going to like that. And so it's allowed me to have like a little bit more freedom where I could watch 2 or 3 lectures in a matter of an hour and a half. And then she gets together once a week, and then we just kind of go over different questions that we had. She has a worksheet that's assigned to that. I think that's a really big, it's more like fluid. Like you can do it when you want, but I still recommend logging in if you have live classes, because that definitely helps. But just the fluidity of being able to do it more on your own is really great.
And even referencing back, right? So if you did miss something or doing that, like you can't rewind your teacher in person, unfortunately, but you definitely can when it's recorded. Anyone have any other silver linings?
Yeah, I got one.
Sure.
So I work, and what I do on Wednesdays is I work from 8 until like 2:15, and I come home and then I hop on my computer and go to class. So I think that's a bonus where I don't have to like drive to the college, find the classroom, do this and that. It's just very quick, so I can work a little bit more.
Yeah, I guess with everything being online, like all of my teachers that I've had so far record their lessons. And for me, my struggle right now is earth science. And so being able to drag it back and rewatch those parts later and be like, okay, I've looked at this in the textbook and now I've watched this video again. I actually understand what's going on. Whereas before it's just kind of like, yes, I'm listening and somewhat absorbing, but I'm still not understanding. So it's really nice to have that aspect of it being online for sure.
Claudia, do you got anything to add?
It's a little bit different than Lakeland because they don't really record much, but I'm like Seth, where I have 2 jobs. I'm like a part-time nanny most of the time, so I do get to take my school to work, which is pretty nice. And then also working in the pantry at the college, I get to still meet students, but like at a capacity kind of level. Yeah.
And I mean, there were days, like my door is normally always open when I'm in my office. So Shayla and Claudia can kind of account to that, obviously. And if I'm in my office, like, yes, you're more than welcome to stop in and chat or whatever. There are days where it was like never ending. And I just was like, just leave me alone. I'm not getting anything done. In my head, inwardly, never said that to students. But like in my head. And then now I'm at work a couple days a week and it's really lonely. And I'm like, where are the students? Like, okay, I took it for granted being able to have people walking by and getting to meet the students face to face and all that kind of stuff. Because not everyone turns their camera on when they're meeting or, you know, like things like that, or it's a phone call or an email instead now. So I'm not getting to be like I like people like Shayla and Claudia aren't stopping by my office. So I'm not getting to know them a little bit better and stuff like that. So you know, in the moment of last year, it was like, oh, I just really would love to just get more stuff done. And now it's the exact opposite. And I'm kind of like, well, okay, they can come back. I would like to see more students on campus. But so it's been definitely an interesting year. Does anyone have anything else to kind of add that we maybe missed or? Okay, so I'll put it out to the guests. Does anyone have any questions for any of my students? So you can either unmute yourselves and ask the question, or you're more than welcome to type it in the chat as well.
I have a question for the students. How would you say university transfer is kind of different than just going and applying straight into a college or university that you want to go to?
Anyone have an idea?
I found that it was more like attending high school. Like it's a slower introduction to university, which is really nice, especially like coming from the university. It was a good little lead because university kind of hits you right in the face.
Yeah, I think just kind of what Claudia said, it's just, it's a smaller scale, and kind of also what Kelsey said, it's all in one building. It's not like, okay, I have one class in this building and I need to run across campus and get to this class. It's all within one little separate wing of the college where most of your classes are. So I think that's a really big difference between like college and small scale university transfer programs versus just mainstream college or universities.
Anything to add, Rebecca, or your?
Well, I think like it's a nice just little stepping stone, especially if you're not 100% sure that you're what exactly you're doing. You can go into kind of the general university transfer and then kind of get a feel for what classes feel like and how busy you're going to be. And then when you go to university, you're a little more prepared for the amount of homework and just the size of classes, because I know when you go into university and stuff, like the class sizes are much bigger. Whereas here in Lakeland, you get to know your teachers and your professors a little bit more personal because those classes are quite a bit smaller than they would be in a university level.
So having done both, so having done Lakeland and then transferring to the U of A, everything that they've really said is holds very true. So class sizes, not having to run from building to building, like that whole 10 minutes, like you get 10 minutes to get to a class, and when you're running across the U of A campus, it's definitely a little bit tougher than, I mean, it will not, I promise, take you longer than 10 minutes to get anywhere in the college. Even if you're way up in the BK wing and you have your next class essentially on the other side of the gym or in the drama room or something like that, it's not going to take you 10 minutes unless you're stopping to talk to people, I guess, along the way, which can definitely happen. So to kind of compare class sizes, and again, I mean, it's been a few years since I was at the U of A, but our intro psych and intro science lectures, the biggest that they're ever going to get is going to be around 70 students. So those are probably our biggest, and even psych is generally closer to the 55, 60 mark, but our science lectures, so biology, chemistry, will get up to 70. So that's our biggest class size. Otherwise, our average is around 28. I took an intro classics class at U of A, and there was 350. So, you know, like, that's definitely a little bit different in terms of that. So our intro classes are going to be a lot smaller because we're just that smaller scale. Does that answer your question, Nicole? Do you have more questions about that? That was a great question.
Yeah, that did really answer my question. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And so we'll talk a little bit about the UT as like the transferring. So there is no guarantee when you do go to transfer. So the thing when you are direct entry, so when you go directly to the U of A or USask or wherever, yes, you're in. And unless you do really poorly, you're not coming out. Whereas with us, you do have to apply. So like Rebecca is going to apply this year. Claudia had to apply last year. Sheila's waiting another year, I think. Right? Okay, I was like, wait, now I'm second guessing everything. And so you do have to go through that process and do that on your own. So you do have to apply, meet their admission requirements, which I will do my best to ensure that your classes are correct, but I can't do your grades, right? So that's up to you. And stuff like that, and meeting deadlines. I will try to remind you and let you know like when applications are opening and stuff like that, but ultimately there's that responsibility on you, which that responsibility is on you when you are applying directly into that program as well.
Can I just add something on top of that?
Yes, sure.
One I didn't know coming into Lakeland College when I started UT, I thought you only had 1 year or 2 years max. But if you're like me, you're going to do 3 years, and you can do a general studies degree through Lakeland and also through Athabasca University, which I am on that route, and I think it's actually a great route. So far, I've really enjoyed it. It's just, it gives you that opportunity to kind of get one degree under your foot, because then I'm also transferring into the same degree Claudia's in with the ATEP. So I think it's a really good transition and stepping stone, and being able to do it all at Lakeland College. Like, some people don't realize that, and I didn't realize that till probably halfway through first semester. But still, that's when you get to talk to different students and you find out about these different routes, and you get to go talk to Kelsey about these different routes. And I think there's also, last year there was an information session about it. So I'm not sure if that's happening again this year, if they're doing information sessions online, but I'm sure they are. And I think just keep your eye out for those, because those are really important and have really important information in them.
And yeah, exactly. So we do, so that's a great thing to tell as well. So we do have an agreement with Athabasca University where you can do degrees with them. We've always had the one that Sheila's doing, which is the Bachelor of General Studies. And that's mainly because it's zero residency. So that means that you can take all your classes from another institution, but end up with a degree from AU. But we also have some arts and science routes with them as well. And so that would require you to take at least 10 online courses, but you could essentially stay here in Lloyd or in the area and get a Bachelor of Arts or Science degree through AU as well, which is a great opportunity. That's new as of officially kind of started it last year. So we're going into year 2. But the one that Sheila's doing, like I said, we've had for a number of years. And so Jackie, our dean, just write in the comments. So yes, so individual advising at bigger universities generally is just an email. And you're essentially picking your classes on your own. Whereas, yes, I will do my absolute best to work with you one-on-one and pick those classes and go through like the program planning and all that kind of stuff, which is a definite bonus to us. So just that smaller scale. I see Dr. Nana, our chair, is also typing something, so I'll let him type something out. But just, we're kind of wrapping up here, essentially. If anyone has any other questions, please either raise your hand and speak or type in the chat. But I did put the booking link, so if you have some more individual questions, you have a specific route in mind, like this is just a small scale of I do have 3 education students. I know Seth is doing sciences, but we do arts, social work, other sciences, so vet med, pharmacy, all that. So if you have a specific question, please book an appointment. I do have some appointments left for this afternoon. If you aren't able to get into booking and you have more questions, please email our university transfer email. So I'll also put that into the chat box, and someone will be in touch with you if you have more questions or anything like that. Any other kind of questions or last minute comments, sorry, from any of my current students? Okay. Well, it was great that you guys joined us. So to my guests, thank you so much. Hopefully we answered all of your questions generally about university transfer. Again, if you have more specifics, don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a good rest of the Saturday. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Yeah, once again, Kelsey, that was great.
Oh, thank you.
I really appreciate the quality of answers given by students. That was really fabulous. It shows how they perceive the college and as a whole. I really appreciated that. And you also crafted the questions in such a way that you were able to bring out the answers from them in a way that resonates with the guests or the students who will be coming to into the department. Yeah.
And that was the first time we've ever had a non-staff question. So that was awesome that Nicole asked that. That was a good question too. So
yeah, I was waiting. I didn't want to. I feel one of the key things that I posted at the very end is that students don't realize is here. These grades are straightforward. They are not curved. If you have 90%, you know right away that is an A. If you have 95, that is an A+. Whereas if you are in a bigger institution, you may have 95. Depending how native your classmates are, you may end up having a B+. If they are top 90, 98, 99%. So that helps students when transferring because they're able to get good quality grades.
That's a good point.
I'll add maybe to one of my questions too, because this is like the same questions that I've used for like my info session. So Shayla's actually been in my info, like she was one of my participants in March. And then Rebecca did our morning session, so that was good. But I'll maybe add that to like my list of questions to kind of go over and add that like that point about marks or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really crucial because students, when they finish, let's say U of A, and you had an experience, they have to wait till the prof post their grades. Whether if they have been tracking, D2L will sum up right away each assignment, each midterm. You can have an idea. This is where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah.
Or this is my probable grade, even though profs do change grades a bit, depending, like rounding up grades.